Hello everybody, this is 10X Generation and this is my road to $1 billion. So, quite a bit has happened, quite a few lessons and things like that. But first off, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. So the first kind of thing that's been going on is, the first thing I kind of want to touch on is the fact that you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around, right? Who you choose to spend your time with will rub off on you, and that's something you should always be cognizant of. I know that there's many different stages of life. Sometimes you have to be in a place that you necessarily don't want to be in order to get where you want to go. So you got to be around people who don't necessarily want to be around, but have to make the situation work out. And I'm in that current situation now. But I figured out that sometimes you being ready to move on to the next level is more of a mental thing than an actual physical thing that's going on. For me and my exact situation, I moved out. If you've been following along, you know I moved out. I've been wanting to move out for a long time, wanting to get everything good. I moved out and I'm moving with roommates, and I have roommates, and they're not exactly the people that it's not exactly the situation I want to be in. But I've always said to myself, hey, I gotta wait till I get my year in. I gotta get my promotion. Unfortunately, I've never gotten my promotion. The company I'm with, there's a lot of changes going on. There's a lot of things happening. And there's hiring freezes and all this stuff. There's a lot going on. So I haven't gotten any promotion. But after an incident kind of happened, I was like, all right. And it was nothing bad. Actually, I'll just tell you what happened. So, they keep... I'm kind of particular about kitchens. Like, I really like my kitchen to be a certain level of... Like, me, I'm kind of picky. So I like the kitchen to be a certain kind of way if I'm going to cook there. But the place I'm at, it's not at that level, so I don't cook. I eat out a lot, and I have like ready meals, like frozen meals and stuff that I eat. So I keep all my food in my room nice and orderly. And I have bread, obviously. And one of my roommates, he's much older. He's also deaf. He saw into my room and he left me a note saying, hey, could I have 4 pieces of bread? And it's like, yeah, I gave him the bread, but stuff like that happens often. And it's just like, I don't really think I need to be in that situation. So anyway, long story short, I was looking up apartments and everything. I was like, maybe I should just move. Maybe I'm ready to get my own place. I got this cat. He's over there. Got this cat. And I actually found that I could afford it. That mental block I had in my mind where it's like, okay, I need to do this before I need to do this, wasn't actually a truth. It wasn't a real thing. I could have gotten an apartment by myself, even if I didn't have the same financial flexibility. But another thing I noticed about myself is that, and other very capable people, I noticed that we are very I don't want to say laziness, but we're efficient. Why work this high level when only this is necessary? Like, if you remember, I was doing DoorDash. I had businesses on the side. I was going to make this other business. I had, of course, my full-time job. I have my app that's making passive income. And it's like, I was okay with being in the situation I was in. So I was like, why do all that? But if I were to move to a higher level, right? Move to a place that I'm more comfortable in, and I feel like better represents who I am, I would just step up, right? It's just like, it ain't necessary. Those things that I say, it's not necessary. I don't need to do all that. Suddenly becomes, well, let's do it, right? It makes sense to do it. And that goes for my business. That goes for the side things that I do. Even if I'm not 100% reliant on my job, right? And I already know the raise is going to come. It's just a matter of time. But you know, the world and companies and those things don't operate within your own schedule, and it doesn't reflect, you know, the amount of time and effort and energy you put in. So even though it's not going the way I want, I'm still being myself. I just can't be a slacker. I can't be a someone who kind of mooches just off the system, sitting around all day. I just can't. I literally can't. I have too much energy for that. So I'll continue doing an excellent job, even if I didn't get the things that I was promised, because that's just who I am. I'm not necessarily doing it for a prize. It's literally just who I am. I'll always be a creator. I will always build things. I will always have some company. I'll always be learning something, not for any kind of reward. And that's something that I think a major lesson of this period is that I have to just acknowledge that about myself and not expect a reward, and realize that the effort that I put in, the energy that I put in, is a reflection of who I am as a person, more than some prize at the end of the tunnel. So that's what was going on that front. On the Neon controller front, sales have been steady. It's just been steady. But you know, every so often I like to go back and just look at the analytics, and I was looking at the information. I saw something interesting. The conversion rate. So when people click on the Google Play listing, you count that number, and then you see how many people actually download it. That's the conversion rate. You want it to be as high as possible. Mine is really low, like the bottom 40% of apps in my genre. It's pretty low. I'm not excelling in that at all. But I did find that there were some spikes. I found that there was a spike when I changed the title and some of the images. So long story short, what I did was, using AI, I redid all my listings. So my the main preview image and the supporting preview images, and I thought it was gonna, and I changed the title to something that had more keywords. So before I had Neon Touch PC controller, right? But looking through the analytics and some of the data, I found that no one ever looks up touch. So that keyword right there is not really being used, but people look up game a lot. So I changed it to PC game controller, Neon PC game controller, because if it's on the Google Play, it's obviously going to be on your phone, so there's no reason to have that. But in the description, I put phone, tablet, you know, all this other stuff. And my brother was like, yo, Joshua, you shouldn't change all those things at once. You should change one thing at a time. And this is all he does. He just does optimization stuff for ads. And I should have listened to him. I didn't. And what happened is my conversion dropped. It tanked. Well, actually, the first change I made was the title. It did go up. It went up. It went from about 20% to 30%. It was good. And then I changed all the images and some of the descriptions, and then it tanked again. But total acquisitions increased. So the amount of total downloads I've gotten has increased, even though my conversion rate was cut and like almost halved. Actually, it went from 30 to 20. So not 30, it was about 66%, right? So I don't know exactly what that means per se. Maybe people don't like the AI, but the title is attracting more people coming in. It's hard to say. And this is a very recent change. So another thing, when you're making changes, I've learned this, you don't want to be impulsive. Like, you don't want to make a change and then see the data, make the change, see the data, make the change, see the data. You don't want to do that. You actually want to give time to allow these things to settle. So, but that's just the results I've been seeing now. And the third thing I really wanted to talk about was with my partner, building this other app. So he has his own business. He has a lot going on. This past 2 weeks, I just had so much going on. Honestly, I've been having a blast, but a lot going on. And we kind of been on like it felt kind of like a break a little bit. Like he was pushing for our app to be released in a certain way, and I was kind of in a disagreement, and I was feeling a little bit frustrated because I had put all this work into building the app, and he just kept adding more and more stuff he wanted. But then once it was time for him to do his side, which is the business and marketing side, right now it's just making the business and doing all that, I felt like the same energy wasn't there, and that just ultimately led me to kind of a burnout. So I didn't really want to work on the app, so I didn't. But recently, just a couple minutes ago, actually a couple hours ago, we scheduled a meeting and we went ahead and talked. And, it was just like, he was just explaining like, yo, there's been a lot been going on in my business, a lot been going on in my life, and that's no excuse. This is a partnership. And he was like, he used a phrase that I really am happy that he used. He said, this is like a marriage, because that's really what a business partnership is. It's a marriage. We are agreeing to do this thing together, and we're partners, right? And we have to be on the same page. We have to be in communication, and to get this thing that we both love, right, our child in a way, the product, out to the world, and develop it. So yeah, I just thought that was something very interesting, kind of a resolution to this kind of like rocky road. But it's just an amazing thing, the timing in which everything works, right? Because I had stuff going on, changes, cool things happening that I've been wanting to happen for a long time in my personal life. And of course Mother's Day and celebrations I've been having, so I haven't even had time to program the way I wanted. But yeah, so that's that. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about is something I've noticed with my own life. Maybe you guys can attest to this, but sometimes when it's time for a change, like time for things to move on, or time for you to change your environment, or that you've outgrown your environment, is that things will just, like, it will feel like an extra unlucky series of events that really never really happens, but it's just like extra unlucky. And that's something that kind of happened to me, but it's not nothing like really bad. It's just like, oh, that's inconvenient, man, that's inconvenient, man, that's inconvenient, just like back to back to back. And in my life, that's always spurred or preceded major changes. So yeah, I always look at that as good signs. Like when they're like things that are outside of my control, not like negligence, like, oh man, I forgot to do this and now this thing is going wrong. Man, that's usually a sign of me getting overly overwhelmed or stressed. But I haven't had really any instances of that. Really, what I've been having is just like bad luck things that's like tied to that place I'm staying. But everything's working out. And just to let you guys know, this is not my place. This is my parents' house because it's Mother's Day and I'm hanging out. I cooked a big breakfast for my mom and we're doing fun stuff, but I just really felt compelled to make this video. Yeah, I guess that's really it. I made a new tutorial for Neon Controller, but that's really it. That's well, that's all that I want to talk about. So yeah, thank y'all so much for watching this 10X Generation, and I'll see you guys next time.